The role of the news media is central to the modern democratic process. For most people, the news media are the dominant source of information about the world. They tell us what matters, they tell us who matters. The way we vote or the way we respond to opinion polls is based largely on media information. So the quality of a democracy now depends upon the information they provide.
The mainstream media really represent elite interests, and they serve those elite interests in a way that can be described as carrying out a propaganda function.
If you want to understand the way some system works, you look at its institutional structure. How is it organized? How is it controlled? How is it funded? And so on.
The big question, of course, is what kind of information do we get? Does it come from a diverse range of perspectives, or are some views dominant and others excluded? The most commonly repeated theory is that the media tilt towards the left or to the liberal end of the political spectrum. What's curious about this view is that there's almost no evidence to support it. In fact, the bulk of evidence suggests that the media tend to be biased the other way. The spectrum of opinion most often represented goes from centre to right, while voices on the left are generally absent. This is the essence of Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky's thesis.
In the last 10 or 20 years, there's been massive research documenting the fact that the media are extraordinarily subordinated to external power. Now, when you have that power, the best technique is to ignore all of that discussion, ignore it totally, and to eliminate it by the simple device of asserting the opposite. If you assert the opposite, that eliminates mountains of evidence demonstrating that what you're saying is false. That's what power means. And the way you assert the opposite is by just saying the media are liberal. Okay, now the question that we discuss is, are the media too liberal or are they not too liberal?
We're talking about your letters saying that the media were biased in the last election.
The bulk of our mail supports the notion that there's a definite liberal tilt to the news media.
All right, now that we've narrowed the agenda to the one acceptable question, are the media too liberal, let's have a look at the way it's argued. If you want to show that, you would look at the media product and you would try to demonstrate that it reflects a slant or a distortion supporting a liberal agenda. Nobody does this. That would take a little work, and besides, if you did it, you'd immediately fall on your face because it works the other way. So what's done is to produce a proposal which is so idiotic that you have to wonder at the cynicism of the people who are putting it forth and their contempt for the population. The proposal is the following. Let's ask how journalists vote. Okay, so we find, let's say, 80% of them vote Democratic. Okay, we've now proven the media are too liberal. It proves nothing. First of all, no matter what, even if the facts are right, it proves zero. You could find that 99% of the journalists are members of the Socialist Workers' Party, or some Maoist group, and that in itself would prove nothing about the media output. The issue is whether the media are free. Are the media, by their institutional structure, free to allow expression of opinion from whatever source and looking at any topic and so on and so forth? So if it turned out that 80% of journalists were part of one faction of the business party rather than another faction of the business party, would that tell you anything?
Even if you take these studies at their face value, there are a number of flaws with them. Perhaps the most important one is that they assume that it's the journalists, rather than the owners, the advertisers, the news shapers, or the newsmakers, who control the manufacture of news. That's a bit like saying that the workers on the factory floor decide what the car industry produces.
It's long been understood, hundreds of years, that unless people are controlled, they're going to challenge power. They will not simply willingly accept subordination, domination, hunger, and so on. Nobody's going to accept that if they have choices. So it is therefore necessary for those who are in the positions of control decision-making, monopolize wealth, and so on. It is necessary for them to somehow keep the population from their throats, as they put it. And that can either be done by force, or as force, that capacity declines by control of opinion. There's no other method.